welcome to another episode of SEO Presso. My name is Björn Darko and today I'm speaking with Marcus Pentzek and he's Chief SEO Consultant here at Searchmetrics and a specialist in International SEO.
Hello.
Hi Marcus.
Good to see you. Hi.
What's actually the difference between normal SEO and international SEO?
Well, international SEO is normal SEO as well. I mean, you always have to look out for the audience you are doing the SEO for. I mean, this is different for each country, for each culture, for each language. And that's what you need to look out for. The normal SEO is just focused on this one language, this one intention.
I can imagine there are different meta tags playing a big role, content is playing a role, and the site appearance as a whole plays a huge role.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the Western world, the site experience or the site design is pretty much the same over many countries. There are some cultural differences in language, of course, sometimes in colors, especially when you go to the Asian places where red is not that much an alert color, but more of like for good luck. Yeah, content plays a very big role. I mean, even the content between same language countries can be totally different. Looking at Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Great Britain or USA, Australia.
Jeans and trousers.
Yeah.
I'm reading very often about server location as well. So how does server location play a role?
It doesn't play a role at all. At least from the technical point of view that Google looks at server locations, it doesn't make a difference if it's placed in Germany or Austria, if you're serving for Europe. What Google actually, or what the search engines look for is how fast your website gets served. Their server location might play a role. If you're serving from US, but your audience is in Europe, it might be slower than if you have the server location in Europe.
We actually had a case yesterday, which I found was really interesting, where somebody wanted to block visitors from another country via IP blocking. What's the case with that?
Well, this is a common tactic if you want to log out spammers. Then you usually look at specific IP ranges to block Russian visitors from your German website, for example. There might be cases where you are trying to block like US visitors from your European website because they are not allowed to see these prices or so. This can be very, very dangerous. Google, for example, usually crawls from US. They have a US IP. And if you block US IPs for the European pages, they won't be able to crawl them.
So when we speak about international SEO, there's often the question if you should put the different websites for each country in subfolders or subdomains. What would be your recommendation?
First, not to go for countries, but languages. Yes, sure. I mean, we just talked about that different countries using the same language might have some differences, but Google usually tries to look out for languages. The first recommendation would be to go for languages first. If this is not possible, you can go for countries, of course. But your question was about using subfolders?
Either subfolders or subdomains.
Okay, that's a pretty deep discussion actually in the SEO world, and there are multiple advantages for subdomains, for example. I would always recommend using subdomains if you are in control for some of those markets, but not in control of the others from the SEO point of view, because Google looks at subdomains like separate domains, and if you're burning one, the others are still safe. If it goes for SEO advantage, subfolders is the better idea because the whole power of one country, of one language, comes to the whole domain. And especially if you're good in internal linking, putting your Hreflangs in place, and you're strengthening the domain. And with strengthening the domain, you also strengthen every single country.
So you said when you have control about the SEO, then it's good to have it on one domain and use subfolders rather than subdomains. Especially in e-commerce, it's very important to build, because there are so many e-commerce players, it's very important to build a niche within this sector. And backlinks is a huge factor which can support you to build a niche, right? So isn't it better actually to collect links from Great Britain and then really focus it on the subdomain or country domain of Great Britain rather than spreading it through all the country subfolders?
Yes, it's definitely true that you should not spread it over these country subfolders, but rather focus on the area, on your niche, on your target country. But still, the subfolder structure is an advantage if you can manage to focus your backlinks from Great Britain on the Great Britain subfolder. We still have a structure. You can see the structure in the URL. If you have the /GB, Google can see this as well. And if the main part of Great Britain links are pointing to the Great Britain subfolder. Google understands the Great Britain subfolder is for Great Britain.
What would you recommend international websites? Let the user choose what language version they want to see, or would you recommend to actually automatically redirect them? And how would you redirect, 301 or 302, and why?
What you could do to identify if your user is really from a certain country is look at exact language of the browser. This also can be something strange and not always working. Take me, for example. I set my browser usually to English, but I'm based in Germany. And if I visit a German website and they detect my exact language is English, and they would automatically redirect me to the English version, this wouldn't be something that I want. So always give the user the chance to choose.
I don't know if it's Kirche or it's IKEA. You land on a homepage, then you get a huge map with all the countries they're serving, and then you can choose actually and click on the flags.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Very often I see that websites, they make use of Hreflang tags, even though they just have one language version on the website, right? And there's another company, I think it's Subdomain, where all the time I'm looking for something at Subdomain, the US website ranks. And that's because they forgot to put the US one into the European set of Hreflang. Actually, it's very easy to implement and very easy to understand. Why is it that so many websites do it wrong anyway?
The bigger international websites or international companies are having multiple teams taking control of SEO, and sometimes even multiple teams taking control of a certain instance of the website, like US website being maintained by one team and the European website by the other team. They usually don't communicate too much with each other, and this is one of the reasons this happens.
Internationalization has often something to do with content, of course, right? The content on a website. And nowadays, we're speaking a lot about automation. So when I'm now looking at expanding to whatever country I'm not in, would you recommend to automatically translate the content into the specific language?
No, definitely not. There are good translation APIs out there. They do a good job in translating easy sentences, simple grammar. But when it comes to real content, they usually suck. And a native speaker will always see this is nothing that a native speaker would write. And when it comes to content automation at all, and you have set up a rule for your basic language, you have a big database of data where these automation tools can get the information from, this is a good thing. And you can always translate these data and set up new rules for new languages to automate some of the content. But I would not recommend to automate translation.
So on the other hand, you would say that like content should always be written by the people living in this country's mother tongue and speaking the mother tongue language.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's take the example of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. It's very often that the websites, they rank in one of these countries very, very good. Even though the website for Austria or Switzerland is exactly the same, content is exactly the same, Hreflang text usage is correctly, everything is actually correctly, but they are ranking very poor in Switzerland, whereas in Germany they rank very well. Why is that?
Google tries to rank the right website in the right country. In all those countries, we have different competition, different websites that are competing with each other. If a website is ranking really good in Germany, you have exactly the same circumstances in Austria for the website, you might still have different competition there. They might be doing a better job in Austria, getting more Austrian backlinks on their pages, and this could be one of the reasons.
So the recommendation here would be actually to do proper benchmark analysis in all those countries and not just rely on one country, but rather look at the market as a whole. You need actually to have different strategies for each country. So let's assume that you are an SEO for an e-commerce company which wants to expand to the Eastern European countries. How would you build up this strategy?
First, look at the markets themselves. Look at the demands in these markets. Are they demanding for your products? If they're in demand for your products, or which parts of them? In Germany, some niches of your products might go better than in Poland. So you need to adjust your product strategy for these markets. This is the first thing. The second thing is the customers. What are they expecting? How are they communicating? Do they need a different language, like commercial language, to talk to them? Do they need other visual language? So it's more like a strategic view than SEO that you need to look at first. Then you can go to the SEO parts, like putting the languages in place, looking for keywords.
You lived and worked in China, and you worked a lot with Baidu, which is the biggest Chinese search engine. What are the biggest differences between Google and Baidu?
For the user, it's not that much a difference. There's this search field where you put in your keywords and you hit enter and get a list of results. They even look quite similar to those in Google. You have got a title, the description. Sometimes there's the picture in front more often than in Google. You might have some kind of knowledge graph on the right-hand side. This is pretty much the same. What's different is the websites that are ranking. There's not Wikipedia in the top of information searches that often. Then the other players, like e-commerce players, there's Amazon.cn, but it's not ranking that well compared to Taobao, to Dangdang, and the local players. There are differences in SEO as well. Baidu is focusing on the Chinese market, so they are preferring to rank Chinese websites because people are searching for Chinese keywords. That does not mean that they don't index other languages. They do. You can search in German and get German results. Baidu is not crawling JavaScript websites, for example. They are still gainable with backlinks. Yeah, you still shouldn't do it. They also have updates like Money Plant, Ice Bucket, Pomegranate update. These are official names from Baidu.
So they're working on putting more quality into the algorithm as well with those updates.
Yeah, because everybody knows they are gameable, so they put quality in these updates as well. Yeah.
Thanks for being with me today, Marcus. Thanks for tuning in. We see us next week on IGTV. SEO Presso. Ciao.
Ciao.